Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome once again to Pop Culture Comics presents Captain Logan's Comic Book Week in Review. This week we're going to start with Return of Bruce Wayne number 6. If you haven't been keeping up with this mini-series while reading Batman and Robin and Batman, at least be sure to pick this one up because it fills in a lot of pieces between Final Crisis and the big changes happening right now in Batman lore. Return of Bruce Wayne has been all about Batman traveling up through specific periods of time to return to the present, while Superman, Wonder Woman, and other superheroes are realizing that his return will mean the death of everyone. Morrison was cryptic as to why exactly Bruce coming back to the present would be so dangerous, but this issue explains it. Apparently when Darkseid hit him with Omega and he was sent backwards in time, it gave him something called Omega radiation, and because of that, Bruce's very presence in his own time destabilizes time itself. I'm not going to pretend to fully understand everything myself because it's really complicated and I get a little lost as soon as I start hearing words like anti-Aegis armor and anti-life equation, but I get enough to know why Batman is a threat and what the other superheroes feel they must do. It's no spoiler that Bruce survives, of course, since he returned in Batman and Robin number 16 last week, and I have to say, I think the solution Wonder Woman comes up with at the end to get rid of the Omega radiation is a little bit obvious and a little anticlimactic. Then again, it makes as much sense as anything, I guess, and Morrison set up such an impossible situation, I'm not sure how else they could have gotten out of it and it still appear clever. I really love Red Robin in this and his loyalty to Batman. No matter how dangerous things get, Tim refuses to leave, even though he's just a mortal surrounded by the likes of Wonder Woman and Superman. He understands they have to stop Batman by any means necessary, but he insists on being there. This issue did what I was really hoping it would, though pretty subtly, by giving Bruce some motivation by the end that leads him to create Batman Inc. It's an extremely pivotal issue, and while I would advise you to read the entire mini, at least in trade if nothing else when it comes out, there's some really important revelations here to Grant Morrison's entire Batman run. On to Red Robin number 17. It's really cool that this and Return of Bruce Wayne number 6 both came out this week. In Return of Bruce Wayne, we get to see Tim's initial reaction to Bruce's return and how heartbroken he is when he thinks that Bruce might have to die. Here we see an unprecedented affection between the two men, a true father-son moment. Bruce seems to have gone through a huge character arc since R.I.P. When he used to see himself very much alone, even while he surrounded himself with other people who have the same goals he does, now he's embraced the Bat family and is putting together Batman Inc. Here we find that Tim is helping Bruce to set up Batman Inc., and it's funny when he reminds Bruce that it was kind of his idea in the first place. Red Robin is quickly becoming one of my favorite titles. The writing is well-paced despite several subplots, and yet Tim is in every scene in this issue. It's very dense with material, and we get to see Tim juggling all of the various aspects of his life. His social life, his love life, his superhero life. I was immediately ecstatic to see Cassandra Cain again, who a lot of Batman fans have been hoping to see return, and with Batman Inc. starting up, I was really hoping this would happen. Tim goes to Hong Kong to get information from her about Lynx, but while there, he gives her a Batsuit, hoping she'll don the mantle of Batgirl again and become part of the new worldwide team. She reminds Tim that there's already a Batgirl, and he responds with a great line. Call yourself Bat Chick, Night Bat, or Black Robin. The point is, don't forget you have family. She doesn't commit to putting it on, but she does keep the suit, and that makes me hopeful we'll see her again soon. There's a good mystery with Lynx where Tim doesn't know if she's a criminal or an undercover cop, and he realizes that she's starting to become his Catwoman. Red Robin feels more real to me than a lot of superhero books. Tim Drake is a very human character, and while he's investigating people on his hit list and fighting crime, we're always reminded that Tim has normal problems as well. Here we're reminded that he's been so busy with Wayne Enterprises, not to mention being a superhero, that he's dropped out of high school. I forgot he was even high school age. The art and storytelling here are as good, in my opinion, as any of the Bat books, and in a lot of ways, we're getting more traditional Batman-type stories here than we're getting in the Batman books. I highly, highly recommend this. Birds of Prey number 6. I think this is Gail Simone's best writing on the series so far. I was beginning to lose interest after number 4, but I really did enjoy this. It's the second part of a two-part story, but I'd say this issue stands pretty well on its own. The main conflict is that White Canary has kidnapped Sin, and she won't give her up unless Black Canary fights Lady Shiva to the death in a very classic martial arts honor code kind of story. But Dinah has a broken arm and couldn't possibly beat Shiva, so Huntress takes it on herself to fight for her. Dinah seems very defeated, and Helena is afraid White Canary has changed her somehow. It's as if she's fighting for her friend's soul as much as she is fighting for Sin. And she does something surprising during her fight with Shiva that is so Huntress I couldn't help but smile. I like how she uses her unconventional street smarts while fighting the best martial artist in the world. Simone has a great handle on White Canary and Shiva's codes of honor, and Helena very cleverly manipulates them. The art continues to be crisp and detailed with a lot of vibrant color. Maybe it's because the story is finally so centered on Huntress, who I think Simone maybe enjoys writing more than any of the others, but I like this a lot more than most of the rest of the series, except for maybe the first issue. And now Thunder Agents #1. So Thunder Agents is an old comic series originally published in the 60s by Tower Comics. There have been several incarnations of it published by various presses, and DC is now incorporating a new incarnation into the DC universe using a lot of the original concepts and characters. The original Thunder Agents were people whose day jobs were being superheroes. So in this version, the Higher United Nations gives its operatives superpowers for special missions, and then it kills those operatives. This gives the agency a really interesting moral ambiguity, and I imagine a lot of future stories will explore the ethics of getting volunteers to willingly give up their lives to save the world. It's almost worth reading for concept alone. The issue itself reads like a spy series, government conspiracy fiction mixed with superheroes. There's a secret organization called Spider, which is taken from the original Thunder Agent series, who came up with an extremely elaborate and convoluted plan to test Thunder by kidnapping an operative named Raven, letting Thunder get him back, and then kidnapping him again. The issue spends a lot of time explaining this, but the plot itself isn't as important as setting up the organization, and I wasn't completely engaged with the material until the last couple of pages when we get down to the bare bones of what Thunder is. A salesman is recruited who is being trained to pitch the organization to potential recruits. That's the really interesting part to me. Only a select few people in the world are even qualified to be recruited and given superpowers, and how do you convince those people that their lives are worth the mission? I do have to question this being in mainline DC continuity a little, just because there are thousands of superheroes already. Why does this agency have to create new ones? Why not just ask a superhero with powers similar to those you need to help you out? Maybe that question will be answered later. I also wouldn't be surprised if they did a story where regular superheroes find out about the agency and question whether it should be allowed to exist. The storytelling is non-linear, and I found I had to go back and reread the issue a second time. With the information given at the end, the story is much clearer. I would have preferred some of the setup coming at the beginning of the issue rather than jumping around between time frames so much. Starting something like this, of course, isn't easy, and the non-linear storytelling is a stylistic choice as much as anything. Despite a slow start, Thunder Agents is definitely worth giving a shot, and I can see it going in some really interesting places while exploring some deep ethical questions. American Vampire #8. I've been reading and hearing great things about this book, and I'm finally getting in on it on this issue, and I can see why it's getting such critical acclaim. It has a fun, gritty pulp style. It makes vampires mysterious, gothic, and morbidly fascinating again. I love the idea of different kinds of vampires with different weaknesses. They all drink blood, and I assume they're all immortal, but they aren't all killed the same way. Two subplots are happening in this issue. One is political, the other domestic. A group of vampire killers are in California trying to strike a deal with Pearl Jones to find out what her vampire species' weakness is. The other subplot takes place in Las Vegas, where a company head has used a group of vampires as investors, but has inadvertently invited their enemies, other vampires, into town, and they brought their war with them. The story is extremely smart and thought-provoking, exploring real aspects of 1940s life, but adding supernatural elements to the mix. This vampire mythos is fascinating, and even starting on the 8th issue, the characters instantly came alive for me. Although these vampires appear to have an evil nature, it isn't black and white exactly. Pearl wants to live a normal life, and she tries not to kill, while other vampires embrace their evil natures. The vampire hunters aren't above doing underhanded things, especially making deals with their enemies to get what they want. And the art is somewhat sketchy, somewhat pulpy, but it's still very modern. Amazing Spider-Man #648. Dan Slott is back to penning Spider-Man full-time as far as I've heard, and Amazing is changing quite a bit from what it's been lately, especially in the art department. Ramos is doing a somewhat cartoony take that's reminiscent of the Spectacular Spider-Man animated show, and I like it quite a bit better than the darker, more muted-looking art we've had previously. This is personal preference, but I like Spider-Man to be bright, colorful, and a little over the top, which is exactly what we've got here. Far from understated, this issue is back to big threats and classic Spidey issues, while still being informed by recent story arcs. Joan is still the mayor, Doc Ock is still deformed, etc. Everybody is in this, and I mean everybody. The Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Black Cat, and tons of Spidey villains. Lots of fun cameos as well as major players. Slott is obviously setting up some changes here, like taking the Venom symbiote away from Matt Gargan. The issue starts with yet another big plot by Doc Ock, and then it just cuts loose. I'd say this is a very good jumping-on point for Amazing, and it looks like it's going to go back to more traditional Spider-Man storytelling. Also out this week, from Marvel, we have Ant-Man and Wasp #1, the first of a 3-issue miniseries. AIM plans to steal Hank Pym's technology. She-Hulk's #1, which is the first of a 4-issue mini. And then from DC, there's Victorian Undead 2, Holmes vs. Dracula #1. And Spike #2 from IDW. Someone's made a show in Las Vegas about Spike's life. And those are my news and reviews for the week. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Captain Logan, wishing you pleasant reading and creative thinking.